Recorded live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of our Continuous Delivery podcast by CA Technologies. My name is Scott Edwards. I'm a marketing manager within CA Continuous Delivery Business Unit, and I'll be the host of our discussion today. Just a quick reminder that you can find all of these Continuous Delivery podcasts by searching for Continuous Delivery 101 in the iTunes podcast app, or find them on the CA Technologies YouTube channel under the Continuous Delivery playlist. And I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to host this discussion today because I'm joined by two superstars, both from GM Financial. Now, in past episodes, we've had a variety of different discussions with those continuous delivery experts in one shape, way, or form. But the exciting thing today is that we get to talk to a company that's well engaged in this process. Obviously, everyone has their own spots in the journey to continuous delivery, but we get the chance to hear from two people who are knee-deep into this process within this GM Financial organization. So joining me today is Matt McComas. He's the AVP for Critical Application Infrastructure. Matt, welcome. Appreciate you having me on board.
Thank you.
As also, we have Wes Miller, who is the AVP of Quality Engineering. So, Wes, welcome to our show today.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, so we're going to get into this and get started. And it was interesting. I had the chance to visit with both Matt and Wes a little bit a couple weeks ago when we had our big user conference, CA World, in Las Vegas. Both Matt and Wes had the opportunity to share in a variety of different avenues their story and what they're doing with continuous delivery, and we thought it would be a great idea to have them come and join us on this podcast to also share this story of theirs. So maybe just as a way to tell a little bit about the organization of GM Financial and introduce yourself. I'm going to ask you, Wes, just to take a moment to introduce yourself first, and then Matt will turn it over to you, and we'll go from there. So, Wes, can you tell us a little bit about what you do there at GM Financial?
Yes, I am the AVP over the automation and the DevOps teams. We started about a year ago. And we have progressed. We've grown. Our team's probably about twice the size it was when we started in October of last year. And we've implemented several of the continuous integration, continuous delivery aspects. We've got test data management, some service virtualization, but mainly test automation all coupled together, which builds us a nice, pretty nice test harness to execute regression and other activities.
Excellent. Okay. And Matt, would you mind doing the same?
Sure. So I am basically over the operations side of essentially software delivery. Obviously, Wes mentioned that he is working in the QA area, and so we're definitely, from my side, more of a platform operations type capacity. And so the team that I manage is responsible for sort of the care and feeding of all the line of business applications and platforms that make GM Financial money. And so we are also responsible for the deployment to those platforms. So a key part of our function this past year has been the build-out of release automation as a platform, and the integration of that solution into our deployment, and essentially the build-out of a pipeline kind of along with it, and also the integration of that pipeline into our ServiceNow platform. So that's been our journey for really the past, like Wes said, really the past year. We really kind of got started in the fall of last year, and so we've been at this right at about 12 months.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Well, that's a great background. So Matt, I'm gonna start with you and ask you a few questions. But if you would you share with our audience a little bit about GM Financial? What do you guys do? Why do you exist? What's the goal of the company? And start with that.
Okay, so GM Financial is the finance arm of General Motors. the GM, it's kind of a long and sort of somewhat convoluted story, but basically GM purchased a company by the name of AmeriCredit in 2010, and since then we've been on a journey to become GM's captive finance company. They rebranded AmeriCredit, and we became officially GM Financial in I believe it's the late 2011, early 2012. And so basically everything about auto finance from a General Motors perspective comes through this company. So it's both loan and lease, and so that is really our kind of our key function, which is to be GM's finance arm and also to help GM sell cars. So that's really it in a nutshell.
Okay. Well, appreciate that. Now, and now I want to kind of get into a little bit of this discussion. You said about a year ago is really when you guys started looking at a way of doing something different, how to deliver applications or feature updates faster with higher quality as they move into operations. Now, it's interesting because I think oftentimes when we hear of organizations looking at moving to DevOps or continuous delivery, often it comes from the development side. And if I understand it right, you, Matt, kind of took that upon yourself to say, how can we make changes? How can we drive a difference here? And you started this push or this initiative to implement continuous delivery at GM Financial. Can you tell us a little bit about what was going on? What were some of the challenges that you were facing and how you started this initiative at your organization?
Yeah, so, I mean, to your point, usually this does start in the development side of an organization. In fairness, in our company, it actually was probably much more closely aligned with a collaborative effort between development and operations. So development's certainly been a key part of this journey. But really, as the team that sort of acts in a release capacity or software, delivery capacity, we've sort of been on the front lines of what it meant to deploy to our platforms. And so that experience has taught us all of the flaws of doing manual software deployments. That combined with a meteoric growth in the company over the past 4 to 5 years. Basically, to give some background, when I started in 2011, there was only one line of business platform, and now there's about, I think we're up to like 13 now. The server growth has been ridiculous as well. We went from 300 total servers to really we're pushing 2,000 servers in the enterprise. So just that growth and the growth of platforms alone made it to where, the manual process that worked okay for a really small shop, it just didn't work anymore as this company's gotten really much larger. And so we were at a point, here in the past, really 24 months ago, we really got to a sort of a crossroads as a development and operations organization, and we just knew we couldn't go further doing things the way we were doing, which is basically, long manual deployments, lots of steps, lots of handoffs, and essentially it was creating all kinds of contention problems, all kinds of resource problems, risks to production, because we have so much creep between platforms, which is still a problem in some ways, but we've made a lot of progress. So basically, we were at a point in which, it was either change how we work or start losing people because, the amount of work and the volume of work, the complexities of doing deployments and just managing the platforms the way we used to do it. I mean, it was just essentially it was going to kill the staff or make us to where we had to hire 300 people just to do it, and it was an unsustainable path. So we had to change it, and so that's the journey we've been on ever since.
There's an old saying, Matt, heroics don't scale, servers do.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we were.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's interesting. So in a lot of ways, it really was kind of you're at a crossroads, and either you innovate and survive or die. And I think that's one of the things that we talked about today is that's what a lot of companies are facing. Even companies, I would think of GM or GM Financial as necessarily a software company. But it sounds like you kind of felt that pressure that we have to move this way to be like a software company and act and behave like one, or we're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and that journey continues. In fairness, with all the effort we put into this, Really, when we started the adoption of the release automation platform, in my opinion, really started a 3 to 5 year process. And I'm sure Wes probably agrees as far as some of the QA automation pieces once we did the TDM and the service virtualization adoption. We knew that this wasn't going to be, just a month or two or 6 months. We knew that this is the long haul. And so, many of those issues and challenges in the company still exist, but we're just starting to get to the point, in my opinion, in which we're building momentum and we're getting the real results with what we've been doing. And so the future is really exciting because I see nothing but more innovation, more automation, more capacity to not only manage what we have, but also deliver even more for the business as we move forward.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And so Matt, you talked early on about collaboration, and in fairness, it was a number of different groups. It was development, it was ops, it was QA working together. And so Wes, I want to bring you into as part of this discussion now. And was it a collaboration? When did you get involved in this process? And I mean, this is what I love, by the way, about having this discussion with the both of you on this podcast at the same time to talk about that this is a collaboration between different functions within the business unit and collaborating together. So Wes, maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
I think it's at this point probably mentioned one of our silent partners, Bill Livesey. He's a development VP who has been kind of in the background marshaling this forward. We understood that our parent company, GM, had an enterprise license agreement in October of last year, and it kind of brought us all together about kind of planning strategically how we were going to do it and what we were going to do first. And so there was an initial kickoff meeting, and there's several bodies or people present, and a lot of people were interested, but mainly the ones that stayed were Matt, Bill, myself, and kind of forged the big three that kind of started driving it. And again, we did it in pieces where we could get the initial win so that people could start understanding what we were trying to do. And it helped us with momentum because we could always point to, we were able to do it here, let us help you do it here as well. And so that journey with the support kind of made it take traction and really take off. And
so Wes, from your perspective, what were some of the issues that you were facing within the quality side of things that led you to say, hey, I want to participate in this approach of continuous delivery and helping us get there in this journey that we're undertaking?
There were several factors that led us to start really looking at automation in a different way. We took on our largest project to date, is my understanding. I've been here about 18 months. But our largest project to date is a large servicing project we've taken on board. And a lot of the old ways of doing things we were not going to be able to do because a lot of that control was now going to be part of that servicing platform serviced by a third-party company. So one of the things that first hit us was we used to be able to pull certain activities from production and put them in our test environment. Well, that was not going to be available to us anymore. So one of those things that we had to do is to come up with a way to do automated funding, create loans for us to test on. So that was kind of the first venture we went down. And then there are other application areas where, working with Matt's team, we built some automation to show the full concept, build, deploy, test, and we kind of built that model up. One area was in our mobile platform, another one is in our web service area. And we started targeting those projects that we knew where it's something that we could understand, it's something that fit into the current skill set that we had, and it's something we could get a success on. So we looked at it from an automation perspective to replace a lot of the, I call it the older thinking, which is pull from production, push it in, massage it a little bit, and then test. We were going to come up with a new way of getting our data into our test environments.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Well, so and Matt, one of the things that I heard a little bit from your story is is you felt you had some autonomy, if I understood it right, to try stuff yourself, right? To say, hey, I think we need to do some things differently. Didn't sit around waiting for approval, but you felt like you had the ability to go and test this out and try it out yourself. And as Wes just said, can maybe start small, start in a certain place, and then grow from that. Tell us about that autonomy that you had and you felt that you had, and why was that a benefit?
Yeah, so I guess, one of the nice things about kind of the company's journey and kind of growth path was that we were a small company before, and the nice thing about small companies is that small companies generally lack the same kind of bureaucracy and handoff or number of handoffs that are common in much larger organizations. As we grew as a company, we haven't really changed, or it's taken us some time to change so that we really kind of are structured more like a bigger company. And so the nice thing is, I guess the long story is, that there just weren't a lot of different approvals needed. I was fortunate enough to have some software budget, and then as Wes mentioned, we had an ELA that we were fortunate enough to take advantage of. And so, since we did the deployments and since we managed all the platforms, we had an opportunity to do something without really kind of a lot of management oversight. And so, to your point, we just didn't feel the need to wait for anyone to give us the green light. We just felt like, hey, we have an opportunity. Let's build a proof of concept. Let's see where it takes us. And then once that succeeded, we were able to then say, okay, so let's move forward with adoption. Let's build this platform out, and let's see where it takes us. So that really is kind of how we got here. That's how the autonomy led us to have that kind of capacity.
So that sounds great. I mean, you took the initiative and went forward with it, and you started to see some results, and you had some early wins. Maybe you can tell us about what some of those early wins were, and how you started then to socialize those in the organization. Maybe from both of your standpoints to talk about.
Yeah, I'll start real quick. So, the POC for us was pretty simple. This is a Microsoft shop primarily, so we had a collection of web servers, IIS web servers, and we had some good examples of some deployments that needed to be done. And so basically what we did is we took the standard deployment, that we were accustomed to doing. We knew generally how long that deployment took, and it was a fairly large platform, maybe 10 to 15 servers we deployed to. So while the deployment wasn't especially complicated, there were enough servers involved and enough manual steps where it would have taken us probably a couple hours and a lot of verification and potential for human error to get this deployment done the way we used to do it. So we took that deployment and we automated it. We were able to get it down to, I think we got it down to, in the end, about 3 minutes to deploy. And so obviously, it didn't take a genius to figure out that was a considerable benefit. And then also the capacity to roll that back was a big benefit for us as well. So that was sort of our early win. Wes can speak to, definitely speak to his early wins.
I think a couple of early wins from an automation perspective was we have a My Account app, and there's several iterations of that going on. It is using Agile, and we were able to automate the deployment, build, and check out of that. And I think there was 167 builds in a particular month, and 27 of those builds failed and went right back to the developers without QA having to get involved. So there's some wins on the automation. We use service virtualization as well, and it's probably some of the larger wins. We have a dependency on third-party entities. A lot of times they're either slow to get us the data, or they get us the data there, but it's incorrect, or it's not necessarily what we needed, and or there's a cost involved because of we pay per transactional fee. And so we looked at working with our development teams and came up with kind of the low-hanging fruit. One of those was the credit bureaus. We automated the response back from the credit bureau so that we could get the credit score and some internal scoring that we depend upon to further refine our testing and get it set up. We're in the process of automating some of that checkouts of our certain loan trigger type activities, and put that into the CA release automation tool, working with Matt's team, so that we can get more rapid turnaround on a lot of our rules that need to go to production.
Yeah, and again, I love hearing kind of the story of collaboration between the two groups. And you've mentioned, Matt, using release automation, Wes with service virtualization. I think you mentioned test data management. I don't know if that was an early win or if that came later. Can you talk about that?
It came later. We had, like I said, the funding was probably top priority because we needed to get data into the system, injected into the system, so that we could start this large project and the testing of it. Test data management is now set up. I've used test data management before, and I create what I call a barcode. The barcode inside TDM is basically you going through, and if you think of the garage door opener in your garage, you flip those dip switches because you want a certain frequency. And the barcode is similar, where I want this type of loan, I want to have this percentage rate on it, et cetera. And then it creates the input of that to go into a dev test script, which then enters it into the system and funds the loan automatically for you. So it's the soup to nuts, like a large test harness we're building. So.
And I believe I heard you mention also one of the other tools you guys have started to use more recently is the Agile Requirements Designer for testing efficiency or testing from building those test cases from requirements. Can you talk a little bit about that or where you want to go with that?
Well, there's a proof of concept. Our BSAs utilize the ARD, and they are going to start a pilot, I think it is in January, to where we're going to be putting the requirements in ARD and hooking that up to that test case. Those rules that I mentioned earlier is the back-end piece of those requirements. And so it's going to help not only the BSAs be able to do changes quicker, it'll also outline and model for the business how those changes will affect production, and it gives them a visual for it. So it's going to be a huge win when we get the whole thing implemented and we're up and working. So we're building in kind of stages.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So both of you have talked a little bit about some of these early wins and the process to get there. Looking back over the past 12 months, what has been the biggest benefit? What have you seen, and maybe numerically that you've seen, whether reduction of time or increase in quality? What's been the biggest benefit that both of you have seen as you've moved down this path in the past 12 months?
Well, I guess from my perspective, the company has had a very large project that essentially has consumed all the time of our PMO and most of our IT organization, especially from a development standpoint. And it was essentially the goal of the project was basically to replace our servicing system platform, which is kind of a key part of our business. And so from our perspective, that project was really sort of amping up through this whole year. A lot of delivery dates were on the schedule. And the great thing about it is that we had a lot of greenfield server and application deployments this year that we were able to leverage release automation for. So, I mean, most people don't know this because we were able to meet our delivery dates, but most people don't know that the reason why that happened was because of the automation platform. I mean, we basically did about 7,000 to 8,000 deployments through the platform in order to meet the delivery dates for this particular project. And we've only really kind of hit the first delivery dates for it. There's still more delivery dates coming, but basically everything that we've done on this particular project has been automated from the start. And so it's been a massive win. The massive win, of course, is great for us. We see it. The only bad thing sometimes is It is hard for others to see it because for them it's just, hey, we succeeded. They don't know why we succeeded. And so we're starting to kind of, the word's starting to get out, I think, as far as, how exactly that happened. And so it's been a big win. And so that particular project alone, in my opinion, has helped us really build momentum and kind of set the stage for the road that lies ahead.
Absolutely. And Wes, how about from your standpoint? What are some of the metrics or benefits that you've seen and from a quality standpoint?
From a quality standpoint, I think it's alleviating a lot of the manual activities. It takes 15 to 20 folks to keep up with the funding manually, where we can now automate that and produce loans in a day that they would take them weeks or 2 weeks to do, and do it in a quality fashion. The other, we had a recent need to check out a certain aspect that we had to get into production, and the only place that we could put this modification was in one of the training environments. The problem with that is that a lot of the third-party connections are not in the training environments. A lot of it's stubbed out. But we needed this response back from this third party. We were able to put service virtualization into the mix, get the responses that they were looking for from service virtualization, get the changes made, and get it into production. And service virtualization, we were able to stand that thing up in 2 days, where it would take them 4 weeks to build it out and get that connectivity. Those are just some couple of wins that we've got. There's many more, but those are probably 2 big ones I can point to right away.
Oh, that's great. And so now you have this. And Matt, you mentioned this. We're starting to kind of get out of what's going on with what you're doing. How have you socialized this, or how do you want to socialize this throughout the organization going forward so that others know what you guys are doing?
That's a really good question, and it's actually one that we're kind of grappling with right now. There's a number of different ways that we can socialize it and want to socialize it. We have some socializing still to do, believe it or not, in the development organization because, while a lot of them understand what we're doing and how it works, many others are just beginning to learn about it, and a lot of those folks don't really understand how the process works. And so that's more of a socializing and an educational effort. I think there's another component that's equally important, and I guess at this point I'm sort of waiting for the right time and the right vehicle to head down this particular road. But as far as I'm concerned, we need to get to a point where we can really socialize it to the business more and help them understand what the capabilities are. Because, our company operates like most companies. The business kind of sits off in their own little world, and as far as they're concerned, IT is a magic place where they go send a lot of money and things come out of it, hopefully, that they can use. And so what I'm hoping to demonstrate or communicate in some way or fashion at some point to those people, which obviously are the most important people because they're the ones that finance this operation, is I want to be able to, to tell them, hey, not only can we do the service delivery as we have, but we're going to be able to begin to do this much faster and for the same or lesser investment as we move forward. And so the capabilities we have are, from a tooling and from a technology standpoint, are going to be off the chart. What really needs to happen more now is not really a technology solutions, but more of process solutions. And that's kind of more of an agile transformation that kind of needs to happen in the business and in the project management areas of the company. And so that's really kind of my target. And it's a bit of a political game, to be honest, and I need to kind of choose and be very choosy about where I kind of insert myself. But, that's kind of what I'm looking to do in the next year or so. And so that's kind of where I'm hoping to head with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, and Wes, are those some of the same challenges you have faced as well in talking about that value that you've seen so far?
I think to Matt's side, probably he hit it pretty hard in that. There's a lot of when you're a small company, there's a lot of things that become institutionalized, and as you grow bigger, it seems sometimes harder to change or want to change because you're kind of used to doing things a certain way. And I think the educational piece, I think the more that we can continue to just chip away at it and take in the areas that are interested now, get them in, get them assimilated and get them up and running. And I think as they do that, they'll become more advocates for what Matt and I are trying to do across the company right here. Matt, Bill, and I.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I think it's good to understand if anyone is expecting to go in this and just find instant results, a bed of roses, they've got another thing coming. It takes time, as you guys have both described, but you've picked your spots, right, and where to first take some initiatives and look for those early wins. And so besides maybe some now kind of communicating some of the business challenges, explain what some of the other challenges or roadblocks were that you hit that you frankly had to come figure out a way how to remove. And Wes, you kind of hit upon this is one I hear often is culture. Just the way things have been done in the past is a challenge. Maybe talk about that if that's been an issue, or maybe some other challenges that you faced that you weren't really aware of before you started down this journey.
Well, I think it's more of sometimes things like Agile and DevOps is new unless you're keeping up, and or wanting to figure out a way to do something better or save time or become more efficient. There's various mechanisms or reasons why you want to go after automation or you want to go after something that's a kind of a repeatable process. Working in QA, I've been in automation for quite some time now, but I think a lot of times it's foreign, and you're not going to be successful the first time you try automation, and when it fails, sometimes the stigma that gets associated with it, I told you it wouldn't work. It's an iterative growing process, and I think some people look for automation as a silver bullet, and when the gun doesn't fire, it's like, well, why waste my time? Why waste the time doing it if it's not going to work? Right? So I think it's a continual education. It's a continual, not necessarily proving your worth, but proving that it can provide the value, it can provide the efficiencies you're looking for, and then add the quality in, because we humans make mistakes. Software doesn't think. It doesn't have bad hair days. It does what it's programmed to do. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. And any thoughts from you, Matt, on that part of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, pretty much echoing much of the same. I run into teams and groups of people all the time who really don't have any. I mean, they understand what automation is, I guess conceptually, but, it's almost like, hey, we automate once and we're done. And the message I keep having to hammering home is, no, we're really not ever done, because there's always going to be something there's always going to be changes to be made. There's always going to be some tweak here, something there. And then the other thing, too, that I've been having to communicate with people is that, CA release automation as a platform itself is a wonderful tool with a lot of great capabilities. But, at the end of the day, this is an application that requires data input and data output, and it is only going to be as good as the data it receives. And so, we have to be diligent, and we have to have a good process around how we're configuring the platform, how it's receiving its instructions. Otherwise, what we get on the other side isn't going to be what we expect or want. And so, again, the same message. This is a journey. This is a continual process. This is a platform we have to manage. And automation is something that we're continually working on. We're continually getting better at. And, failure doesn't mean that we're on the wrong road. Failure means that, in my opinion, means that we're really kind of on the right road in many ways, because we're trying to do things. We're trying things. And sometimes you have to fail in order to succeed. So, but, we learn from the failures. We get better, and that's the point. And so trying to kind of hammer that message home to people, it seems to be a bit of a battle for me at times, because, people, like I said, kind of get stuck in that mindset that, ooh, we've automated it, cool, we're done with it. No, we're not really done with it. Now, our lives are easier because of it, but there's going to be care and feeding that goes with that, and we have to maintain it and continue to refine it and make it better. So.
Yeah, and I think those are fantastic. I mean, what you just outlined are great recommendations, right, of people who might be starting this journey. what they need to know, what they need to be aware of as they go through this process. So yeah, great points and very real and poignant points as you've discussed there. So we're nearly up to our time here, and you have a couple other things. You mentioned some tooling that you used, and I'm curious, does open source play a role in this? We hear a lot of this open source. Do you see yourself using it, and if you do, how do you use it?
I'll take that first, Matt. We do use open source. We are very fortunate at GMF to be able to at least consider and or use open source. There's companies I know I've worked in the past where open source was not an option. Here it is an option, and we do use, from our automation perspective, we use Selenium as our foundational framework for our automation. And so a lot of our activities coincide with DevTest and others, but we do use Selenium for our framework and a couple of other open source tools.
Yeah, and from my perspective, we aren't really using any of those types of tools right now, but we need to have create an environment and a culture in which it's possible to do that. We need to be able to use those tools where it makes sense, or at least give it a try. And to Wes's point, he's been able to do some of it on his side, and on my side, it's been a little more of a challenge to do that. I run into some process roadblocks and some bureaucracy and things like that to sort of keep that from happening. And so that's sort of one of the areas I'm working on. I don't have any specific tools that I'm looking to adopt. I mean, we do have some that have open source versions. I mean, we're a Jenkins shop and we're an Artifactory shop, and those are platforms that certainly have open source versions. We're also on the cusp of becoming a Puppet shop, which of course also has an open source version. But most of those platforms we actually have the commercial version of it. But there's definitely plenty of solutions and plenty of really awesome and really sweet things in the DevOps tooling community that give us capabilities that I'm hoping that we will have a chance and opportunity to try. But to be honest, right now we're so busy with continuing our integration with CA release automation that I don't really see us having a whole lot of time, especially in the next 6 months to a year, to really get into any other tooling. But we will look for opportunities and advantages as we can.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it sounds like it's building out this ecosystem and leveraging the tooling that's available and how they work together, and how that can benefit you as you go on. So, and that leads me to my last question, and you mentioned that is kind of what's next. Yeah, what do you see next as you drive down this journey that you at the outset said it's probably something that's going to be 3 or 5 years to really get where you want to. So what's next for you guys?
I think from my perspective, I've got, like I said, we've got the test partners frame. It's filling it out, working with Matt's team, where we have service virtualization is to set that into care to automatically spins up so that a whole ecosystem is alive and it has the current information that it needs to function, as well as running a whole complete regression through our test harness using DevTest, service virtualization, and TDM.
Yeah, excellent. And you, Matt?
Yeah, for us, we've got a lot of bold plans. I mentioned configuration management. That's certainly on our roadmap. I want to get to immutable server deployment so that we can, when we have an issue with the server, we just replace it instead of doing a lot of activity, troubleshooting or digging into that server. And I'm hoping to chain, the configuration management into the release automation. In fact, it will be part of it. So we really want to move more towards an infrastructure as code model and approach, so that changes in the configuration, changes in the infrastructure roll through the pipeline and they're tested along with code deployment. So and then of course pairing that with a lot of the activity that's going on Wes's side, we firmly believe and know that we can get to the point eventually in which we have deployments that are automated end-to-end with automated tests, automated configuration management, automated deployment, automated validation. I mean, all the different pieces in the pipeline, end-to-end automated and triggered through ServiceNow is really kind of the panacea of what we're after. And so I know it's going to take us some time, and we have a mountain of work ahead of us, but it's an exciting journey, and I'm firmly committed to finishing it, and I'm firmly persuaded that we have the right people in the right places to get it accomplished. So there's a lot coming, but I guess the thing I would say is talk to me in a year and we'll see where we're at, because I think we're going to have some cool stuff done by then. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's do it. This will be a fun journey to follow for sure. Well, we've hit our time limit here on the podcast, and Matt and Wes, I truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy day and sharing with us this journey. I mean, we've covered a lot of information here, from your starting, where you started, the benefits that you were receiving, how you socialized that, how you communicated and collaborated between each other in different parts of the organization. It's been a fascinating story. So thank you both for coming on and participating on this podcast with us.
Thanks. Really appreciate it, guys.
Yep. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Well, with that, we'll conclude our podcast for today. I encourage you, if you are listening to this, you can see more of the GM Financial story through some of the slides that were presented at CA World. You can find those on the CA Technologies SlideShare channel, and you can see some of the GM Financial stories and presentations that were shared at that event just a couple of weeks ago. And again, a reminder, feel free to download the entire series of our iTunes Continuous Delivery 101 podcast. And thank you to our listeners who are listening to this, and we look forward to creating more of these here in the future. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Wes. And everyone have a wonderful day. Thank you.